Let's start with the Chumash of the day. Starting a new parsha, the portion of the A, holding in Deuteronomy, chapter 11, verse number 26. The Moshe Rabbeinu continues his speech to the Jewish nation. See, today I've given to you, set before you today, bracha klala. I set before you today a blessing and a chas v'shalom, a curse. So Rashi says that Anechi is talking about the two Hamudas, Bahar Agriz and Bahar Avevel. These are the what Moshe Rabbeinu said, that when they came into the country, they had to do the blessings on Hagizim and the curses on Avevel. It's a bracha, the blessing Asher Tishmu El Mitzvah Hashem. The blessing is that you should follow, you should listen to the commandments of God. Asher Nechi Mitzav Etzlem Hayem, which I command you today. As a bracha, Rashi says, on the condition that you listen. Baklala and the curse, God forbid, and the curse is if God forbid you're not going to hearken to the word, to the mitzvah of the Eibush. And you'll move away from the path. Which I command you today, to go after other gods, which you do not know. So now this teaches us that whoever worships idols departs from the entire path that Israel had been commanded. For here our rabbi said, one who acknowledges the divinity of pagan deities is as though he denies the entire Torah. So there's certain mitzvahs or Vedas, God forbid, that if one does, it's as if he went against the entire Torah. One of that is Avodah Zarah, worshipping idols. Verse 29. There'll come a time when God will bring you very soon into the land of Eretz Yisrael, Larishta, to inherit it. And Asatas Abracha, you're going to give the blessing al Har Grizim, on the mountain of Grizim. There's a klala and the curse, God forbid, al Har Geva, on the mountain of Hazel. The Rashi says, as the tiger rends it, Yos Mevarcha, those who bless. Al Har Grizim, I mean the mountain curses, the usual upon, which means facing Mount Gerizim, which means the Levites turned their faces towards the mountain and began with the blessing. Blessed the man who not take a graven image, a molten image. Each of the curses in the section which begins in Deuteronomy chapter 27 was first stated an expression of a blessing. Afterwards, they turned their faces to Mount Avo and began reciting the curses. So if you ever go to Israel, you'll see that these two mountains, you can see these two mountains, Har Grizim and Har Evel. Har Grizim is a very grassy mountain, and Har Evel is a very barren mountain. Now, this was to remind the Jews throughout their history about these two concepts: the concept of a curse, these are mountains that was there when they came into the land of Israel. So it would be an open reminder to the Jewish nation. Verse number 30. And they're not on the other side of the Jordan. Way beyond the direction of the sunset. In the land of Canaan. Who dwell in the plains opposite of Gilgal, near the plains of Meir. It's amazing how Moshe Rabbeinu gives exactly where everything is. He never went into the land of Eretz Yisrael because he knew exactly where everything was. Moshe Rabbeinu gave them exactly, described them the mountain. After crossing the Jordan, much further on the distance. But that's the meaning expression, after, beyond. The term after is used whenever there is great separations. It's not exactly across the Jordan, it's a distance near Jericho, after Jericho. So you can see it actually, you can see it as you drive toward the Dead Sea. Derech Mavoy HaShemesh, direction of the sunset beyond the Jordan towards the west. And the cantillation marks the verse that proves that Achrei Derech refers to two separate things. They are marked in two different accents, thus demonstrating that the words are not connected. Achrei is punctuated with a pashta, which separates the word from the succeeding one, and Derech is punctuated with a mapa. It's a different, the way that's a That's the point of the way the Balkorah reads the Torah, because not only the letters, but also the song changes the meaning of the word. De'acharei is one thing, and derech is another thing. Mo Gilgal, rachik min Gilgal, far from the Gilgal. Elein Meira, what's Elein Meira? This is Shechem. Shenema ad Mokim Shechem ad Elein Meira. So we know Elein Meira is Shechem, where Yosef HaTzadik is buried. Verse 31, you're coming into the Jordan. You're going over the Jordan. You're coming to land of land. What God has given to you. I say, you should possess it, and dwell in it. The Rashi says the miracle that occurred during the crossing of the Jordan, which is split, will be a sign in your hand that you will come to inherit the land. Verse 32. Shmaitim last says you should be careful. Shmaitim, you should keep. Last says to do. It's called the laws which I give you today. Chapter 12, verse number 1. These are the statutes, and these are the laws. We should be very careful in the land. Which God has given to you, to inherit. All the days. Which you live on the land. Number 1. You shall utterly destroy from all the places where the nations, where the nations worship their gods. Which you're going to inherit. The godly statues or whatever on the mountains. And under every lush tree. That's an double expression of destruction. Destroy and then destroy again. From here we derive that one who eradicates idolatry must thoroughly uproot, remove every trace of it. And what shall you destroy from them? The gods that are on the mountains. Verse 3, in the Tatzim you shall tear down their altars. You shall smash their monuments. And their ashereim, which are their trees, which they worship, you shall burn in fire. And cut down their graven images of their gods. Destroy their name of deities. From that place. Rashi Mizbeach shall avonim harbe, a altar of many stones. Matseva, a monument, is from one stone. You used to do different kinds of altars made out of many stones, and an altar was called a bimus, which was one big stone, which became an altar. Ashera is a tree that was worshipped. It was an Ashera, acacia tree, that was worshipped. You shall destroy their name by giving them a disgraceful nickname. But they call Beis Galia exalted temple. You should call Beis Kalia a doghouse, outhouse. But it's called an iron coil, which is an iron sea. You should call iron koitz, a thorn eye. You shall give a derogatory name to idolatry. Like that, you shall not do this to God. The Rashi says what does that mean? To burn sacrifice to God in any place you choose, like the Goyim, they create these things and do whatever they want. But rather at a place that he will choose, God chooses, the Beis Hamikdash. Another explanation, you shall not tear their altars and destroy their name. They come to teach us you're not allowed to erase God's name. There are seven names of God in the Torah, and you're not allowed to erase it. Once you write it, you're not allowed to erase it. Now, Bishmael said, would it enter your mind that a Jew would tear down an altar of God? And the meaning is you should not do so, is that you should not do like the deeds of the nations, so that your sins could cause the sanctuary of your fathers to be destroyed. So that's if God forbid, that's why would the Beis Hamikdash destroy? Because of the Jewish people, because your sins. So you brought about the destruction of the temple. You should only bring a sacrifice to the place where God chooses. Hashem Elokeichem, God your God, Mikol Shemeteichem, in all your tribes. Lashim Shmei Shama, to put his name there, L'Shichnai, Sidushu, to its dwelling place you shall go, Ubasa Shama. Over here, Leshichna is a Mishkan, and this is where the Mishkan Shiloh. You know that when the Jews came to Israel, first they had a Mishkan in Shiloh, established a Mishkan in Shiloh for a couple hundred years. Yeah, I think for 69 years, it was in Shiloh before, and then it went to another place, Nov, until it came to Yerushalayim with Shlomo Melech. But so the first 400 or 500 years, it was in three places. It was mainly in Shiloh. And you can go today, if you visit Israel, you can go to Shiloh and see where the Mishkan was officially for over 300 years in Shiloh. You shall bring your offerings, burnt offerings of Chechem, your sacrifices, and all your tithing, and the separations of your hand, all your vows, all your donations, and all your cattle, firstborn and cattle, and all your sheep. That is usually obligated peace offering masrechem. The tithe of cattle and the second tithe to eat them within the walls of Yerushalayim. Trumas yetchem, the separation hand usually goes on bikurim because it was brought to Beis Hamikdash, regular truma given to the kohen. But here we're talking about bringing it to the Beis Hamikdash. What was brought to the Beis Hamikdash was the first fruits on Shavuos. Prepared bekarchem, the firstborn of your cattle, also was brought to the Beis Hamikdash to give to the kohen, and they shall offer them there in the Beis Hamikdash. Verse 7, and you'll eat there before God your God. You'll be rejoiced with all your endeavors. You, Vatechem, and your households, Hashem Berach Hashem Lekech, which God has blessed you. Rashi says, before consummated to the blessing, bringing of the offering, the previous that you have to, when you brought the offering, you said a bracha, mitzvah. Verse 8, you cannot do anything, you cannot do what we're doing today. Every man doing what he seems fit. You're coming to the land of Israel, be a much more established situation. This refers back to the state above for crossing the Jordan, meaning when you cross the Jordan, you immediately are permitted to offer sacrifices on a bama, a temporary altar. In the entire 14 years of conquering the nations, dividing the land amongst the tribe, but on a bama you may sacrifice all that you sacrifice here this day in the Mishkan, which is with you as you anointed it, and thus fit to sacrifice the sin offering and guilt offering, vows and donations. Where on a bama you may sacrifice only that is vowed or donated. And this is the meaning of every man doing as he seems fit. Vows and donations that you have donated because you're being fit to bring it, not because any obligation. So there was a certain period of time for the 14 years that they were busy fighting the wars that they were allowed to have bumas, which is hard to take away later if you learn history. Jewish people like these bumas, and they had these private bumas, private altars in the back of their house. So the first 14 years they were allowed to do that because they were busy with wars and busy in different parts of the country. But after the 14 years, they divided and separated. They were not prohibited. They were not permitted to have any bumas, and everything had to be brought to the Mishkan, and ultimately to the Beis Hamikdash. Because of the first 14 years, because you're not there to come to the resting place inheritance, which the Lord has given to you. Rashi says, all the 14 years, you were busy conquering the land. Not like yet. To the menucha, the resting place, is Shiloh. After the 14 years, they established Shiloh as the Mishkan of the Eibishter. Hanachala, the inheritance, that's going to be later. David HaMelech, who will build the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. You're going to cross over the Jordan and you're going to settle in the land. Which God will give you an inheritance. And he's given to you as a resting place from all your enemies, the Sava that surrounds you, and you will dwell in security. Rashi says, you will have appointed it amongst themselves, that every man will recognize his portion and his territory of his tribe. After conquering and dividing the land, and having obtained the rest from the nations in which the Lord has left over, through whom tested Israel, and that was only in the days of David. So ultimately, this verse that Rashi says was not actualized for the first close 400 to 500 years of the Jewish people. Was in the land. They had Sodis and Sodis and Todis until David HaMelech came and got rid of everybody. And that's why the Jewish people lived in peace and serenity by Shlomo HaMelech, and they built the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. Took a couple of 100 years. And that completes the Chumash of the day. We are now in the seventh letter, middle of the seventh letter of the Tanya, Geras HaKodesh. And Dr. Rebbe is talking about, yesterday he started this chapter, and the Alter Rebbe is talking about the concept of the way for our Adam and Ishan, who was Neshama Klolis. Adam and Ishan was a general soul, and from it came out all the other souls. And the ultimate, the concept of the mitzvahs are all connected, 365, 313 lights. And ultimately, at this point, the Alter Rebbe resumes in terms of in the thought that he has begun. We pointed out that Jacob referred to God as El Israel, God of Israel. Why did Yaakov Avinu expressed in his prayer that God is the God of Israel? For this, why? Because Yaakov, the soul of Yaakov, otherwise known as Israel, we are called Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. Why are we called the children of Israel? Because we all come from Jacob. Why do we call it, even though we're sometimes called the children of Abraham or the children of Isaac, and we call them our fathers, but we're called Bnei Yisrael. We're not called Bnei Yitzchak, Bnei Avram in general. We're called Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. Because Yaakov is a general soul like Adam and Isha. So Yaakov, as he says over here, continues this letter.
Can I ask a question?
No, to the end. Now, the Yaakov means shufra the Adam and Isha. The consummate beauty of Jacob resembles the consummate beauty of Adam and Isha. So, sorry, at the end, because I don't have that much time. So, the beauty of Yaakov Avinu, what Yaakov Avinu meant, is the beauty of Adam and Isha. Why? Why did Yaakov represent Adam and Isha, Adam, first man? Shetikin Chet Adam, because Yaakov was ultimately the one who rectified the sin of Adam. So just like we mentioned, that Adam is a general soul. Yaakov was the general soul of the Jewish nation. Adam is the general soul of the humanity. And that's why we're all called Adam, humans. Adam is a general name, humanity. So Adam is the human race. And Yaakov is the general soul of Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people. Ma'olam ve'adolam, from world to world, meaning both those revealed world as well as the concealed world. And Yaakov, moreover, Yaakov was not only generous soul, Yaakov was Merkavah L'Teila Shalamayla. Yaakov was Midash Shalemis, the attribute of truth. So he was the vehicle of Torah, Torah's emes, in the heavenly state, which refers to as Adam. So you see this, as it says over here, this phrase reflects the wording of the verse, which begins with the word Zois Torah Adam. This is the law of man. Interpreted as in the level of Drush, the word is taken literally to mean this is the Torah Adam. So we have Adam de Lamata, we have the human in this world that reflects the human that's above. As when Ezekiel saw the chariot of God, he said he saw upon it different faces, and he saw a chair, and the mus and the form, the likeness, well, on the throne, the mus kimare Adam. There was a likeness of appearance of a man. literally of a man. And the latter term, as explained in Kabbalah, refers to Torah. So Adam and the concept of Adam Lamaila, Adam, the way Adam is above, is the concept of his true truth, which is the concept of Torah, which is the essence of every human being. Because of Zeis Lefanim Israel, as it's written, this was the custom former in Israel. What does that mean? That at least in a plain meaning of the phrase quoted on the interpretive level of Drush, however, each of the three Hebrew words is here constructed as follows. Zeis, as taught in the Zohar, connotates Torah, Lifnim, within, Be Yisrael, in Israel, our patriarch. At this level, the quoted phrase thus means the Torah is implanted within Israel, the patriarch. How do we know that Zeus? Ain't Zeus ela Torah, and Zeus, so Zeus lefnim b'Yisrael. Zeus, this refers only to Torah. Shiklulu mevleshes neshamis Yisrael Saba. For the Torah is contained and invested within the soul of Israel, the patriarch, which compounds all the souls. And that's what we call Bnei Yisrael. So the quoted phrase refers both to Yaakov in a more immortal world and to his supernal source, Adam, the man on the throne, which is also known by this name, Adam. Now, in addition to Jacob, or Israel, our patriarch, was a vessel capable of receiving the radiance of the Torah. Hence, this is the meaning of the both above a quoted phrase. And he called him El, God of Israel. What means El? It's one of God's names. El, since the name El denotes a divine attribute of chesed, which finds expression in God's desire to communicate his hidden light, Jacob uses the name El, signifies man's calling forth the radiance of the infinite Ein Sof. El, which is clothed in the Torah from concealment, me'ahelim elagil. So that it should illuminate a man's soul. As we say, El Hashem, v'yar lanu. El Hashem, El is the Lord, and He has given us light, indicating that light, like likewise, the divine name of El, Aleph Lamed, connotates illumination. Thus, when we say that Jacob called God El, we imply that he called forth to draw down into his soul an all-encompassing revelation of the infinite light of God that comprised all particular details of the Torah and its mitzvahs. But now that Jacob, that we call the patriarch, Jacob is the one who redeemed his parents. Jacob is the one who symbolizes Torah. Jacob, we are called all Bnei Yisrael because we all want to connect to Jacob. And after Jacob, the infinite light of God shines openly into the souls of all the upright and of heart to engage in the Torah and mitzvahs. Now, whoever wants to connect to God, it has the capability because it was given to him through Jacob. So he explains over here, the upright of heart alludes to those individuals with whom the godly illumination found in the intellect descends into the heart, where it inspires them with love and awe of God. Their spiritual emotions in turn adds vitality to the study of Torah and to the performance of mitzvahs. So the divine radiance is felt by the individual in turn of our portion, Chelkenu, as quoted in this letter, which is the particular godly illumination which permeates a Jewish soul through his performance of each and every commandment, in which is a portion and a part of all-encompassing illumination comprising of 613 parts. Man Gilui Zebi says, going back to the beginning of this letter, when is the most elevated and most powerful manifestation of this divine radiance in their mind and heart? When is that happens? Is in a time of prayer. As explained elsewhere. So it is by the means of the ladder of prayer that all of man's mitzvahs ascends. This is the same ladder also serves as a conduit through which the divine radiance and revelation descends in this world. And that's why Jacob is the one who had the dream of the ladder. The angels going down and the angels coming up and going down. So through us going up through our prayer, which is the ladder of prayer, the Eibishter then descends, the light of God then descends to this world. That completes the Tanya of the day. I didn't forget you asking a question. Give me a second. And I'm going to go to the Tillim of the day. It's the 23rd day of the month, which is chapter 108, 109, 110, 111, 112. So for 108 to 112. And that completes the Chitas of the day, if you say the Tillim. And in Mishem, with the help of God, at 10 a.m. today, we're going to continue our wonderful class. We had a little break for a couple of weeks, and Shara Yichud Ve'emunah. You either can come to Chabad and learn together in person, or you can find it on Facebook, TorahDirect.com. Only on Facebook at TorahDirect.com. In general, you can find all the classes that are given, the Chitas, and in general, all the classes on TorahDirect.com in general, not Facebook, a website, TorahDirect.com. But the class live is on Facebook, TorahDirect.com. Have a wonderful, beautiful day.